Hey, everybody. How have you been? I know that if you have listened to this podcast since I started it, I have been so consistent weekly, sometimes two times a week, coming to you and sharing tips and tricks, or some of my amazing friends who have come on to share all of their insight, share their stories, so that we as moms feel that we are not alone. And I have not actually put an episode out since June. And that's because myself, I was personally going through some transition, which is what I want to talk to you about today and ask you, have you ever been through a transition, whether that is through marriage, whether that's through jobs, whether that's through grief, any kind of transition. Maybe it's moving to a new area, maybe it's a divorce or marriage. Any of these kinds of things can be a transition. But I want to talk to you about what I was thinking about because I kept talking about transition. I'm in this transition. So let me back up a little bit. The last 5 months, let's just say, I had some stuff going on personally, and then also just in my household, and also professionally and with work. In August, I transitioned out of my position as managing director of a local connection group. I passed that on to another amazing woman to help run and grow that chapter. It was near and dear to my heart, but I knew that I needed something else. I knew that I wasn't able to give of myself like I was before. So that was something that I wanted to do. And then the next thing is just actually a couple weeks ago, my husband and I sold our restaurant. We have been restaurant owners for almost 10 years. So 10 years of my husband working at least 5 days a week, going in and prepping, so potentially 6 days a week, never having him home on the weekends, me running around with the boys. And after the last couple of years, it just got to be a little much. And my husband had been in the restaurant industry for 40 years. We've owned a restaurant for almost 10, and it was time. So we've also been transitioning in that way of getting rid of our restaurant, talking, knowing is the time right, finding the right person to sell the restaurant, finding the right person to buy the restaurant. So there's been a lot of transition, but I actually was talking about this on Monday with some friends, and I wanted to kind of change that word transition and think, how else can I be talking about this? Because it's much more than that. It's much more than these transitions that are happening in my life. It's more of a metamorphosis. And so when I looked up transition, looked up, tell me some words that are similar, I found metamorphosis. And we know that this is like when you think of animals, they go through a metamorphosis, or the caterpillar goes in the cocoon and comes out something different. And why can't humans go through this? And when I looked it up, actually, humans do go through a metamorphosis. And so I have done this numerous times, and maybe this is you too. So we're not physically having a metamorphosis. Maybe you are. If maybe, you've had some kind of surgery, or maybe you've had an extreme weight loss or weight gain. Like, who knows what that may be for you? Maybe went from, working out a little bit to lifting weights, and now your body looks totally different. I'm thinking really that psychological type of metamorphosis. So here's the one thing it says: humans do it too, not physically, but psychologically. All of us will experience a metamorphosis several times during our life, which is exchanging one identity for another. And I think it's actually really beautiful. And I think that we as humans can really, instead of being scared of this metamorphosis, this shift, this pivotal moment, this transition, however you want to talk about it, we can really look at it as this beautiful time, this exploration time, this time to become a new person. If you think, I wonder if most marriages end in divorce because you're not the same person you were when you got married. And so many times people look at that as a negative. I can even look at that as a negative. Well, you're not the same person you were when I married you. But really, when you think about it, it's like, I hope you're not. I hope you're not the same person that you were 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 2 years ago, 6 months ago, because we are always evolving. This is the evolution of the human. So you are never going to stay the same. And this is in life, this is in love, this is in jobs, this is in what lights you up, this is in your mental state, this is in your parenting. Like, you're always going to be changing. And I think we look at this as such a negative thing, but really, I think it's beautiful. So I wanted to kind of change those words from transitioning to being in that metamorphosis. And that is what I am in right now. And that is what I have been in. And I wanted to come and share some tips with you that if you're going through this, if you're feeling this, or you're in some sort of transition, metamorphosis shift right now, I want to give you some tips that are really helping me. Everything is always a practice. Nothing is ever perfect. I am no expert. I'm just sharing with you what I'm going through in hopes that you can relate to it and it can help you in some way. So my hope I wrote down 6 tips, is that you take one of them and see if that helps you during your transition. And if it does, I would love if you would share with me how this has helped you. Tag me on social media, send me a text message, send me an email, find me on any kind of social and let me know what you think, what you're going through, which one of these tips has really helped you when you're going through this metamorphosis, this transition. Okay, the first one, tip 1, listen to yourself, your intuition, right? So the first step in knowing that you want to shift, you want to change, you want to adapt and do something else is to have that feeling, right? You're starting to feel, for me, sometimes I can start to feel sick. Sometimes I can start to feel grumpy. Sometimes you start to feel dread. Maybe it's you don't want to go to work. Maybe it's you don't want to come home after work. There's some kind of feeling, there's some kind of knowing that this isn't right for you anymore. So that is the first thing. You need to be able to listen to yourself, which maybe means get quiet, get away from all the distraction, and really listen to, is this something that I want? Maybe there's some questions that you can ask yourself. What do I want? If it's not this, then what? Maybe write out anything. If I'm not doing this job, what would I want to be doing? And you write down the craziest ideas that you can possibly come up with. Anything that you've ever dreamed about doing, things that maybe you forgot, and just write it all out. That leads into my second tip, which is journal if you're into journaling, or write it all out. If I was not doing this job, what would I be doing? And you, ladies, mamas, you need to write it all out. Your craziest dreams. I want to own a zoo. I want to go swim with the dolphins and work with dolphins. Maybe it's not even about work. Maybe it's about moving. So if I wasn't living here in my wildest dreams and my deepest desires, where would I be living? Maybe it's near the mountains. Maybe it's near the water. Maybe it's in another country. If it's not this, then what? So when you're journaling and getting all these things out, you're starting to dig deep into that knowing of things that maybe you've forgotten that you're remembering now. Because a lot of the time we push down all those goals, we push down all those dreams. And remember, not everything has to be something that's going to make us money. Some things can just be because it brings you joy, because it's fun, because it lights you up, because it's exciting. But a lot of the time, especially if it's with work or career, we've pushed those things down because society has said that we have to be doing something else. This is the way it has to be done. And it's getting better, but it has been true for so many of us. I'm in my 40s. This is the way it has to be done, which is going to bring me to my next thing. Old stories. So what I mean by this third tip is the old stories are going to come up. So when you start journaling and writing out all these things that you would love to be doing, those old stories are going to start coming up for you of, well, I can't do it this way. Or old stories of, so I'm going to give you an example. So my husband and I sold our restaurant. I'm no longer the managing director. We sell the restaurant. Now we do not have that steady, consistent stream of income coming in. You know what I mean by that steady stream, right? Every 2 weeks, you get this in your paycheck. That's what it is. Boom, boom, boom. You can count on it. So usually I'm really good about this. I have my own business, and I really started to go down that rabbit hole of old stories. Okay, what was I good at in the past? What could I do again? What could I do so that I'm working for someone else? I could go back to teaching. I could be a waitress. I saw this ad come up. It was on Facebook. I don't even know how it popped up, to be an administrator at some co-working space. I was like, oh my God, I've always wanted to own a co-working space. Maybe I could do that. So I started to think of things that I've done in the past that I'm familiar with, my old stories of what it should be. I'm working for someone else. Someone else is making my hours. Someone else will be paying me. That's consistent money coming in because it's familiar. Because that's my old programming coming up, because now I'm starting to feel like fight or flight. We sold the restaurant. We got paid for the restaurant. Now what? WTF. Now what? Right? I don't want you, or what I suggest, don't push them aside, but be mindful of those old stories. Be mindful, like, oh my gosh, like, why is this coming up for me? Like, I've worked so hard on doing this. Like, gosh, that makes sense. I see those things. I hear those things. I understand why they're there. It's not even the society saying them to you. You're saying them to yourself. You're thinking them. You wrote down all of those things in your journal, all your wish list, and now you're like, nope, a million reasons why I can't do that. A million reasons why I can't do that. Your old programming comes up and it tries to stick you, right? But I want you to notice them. I want you to let them come up, recognize that they're there. And then you can rewrite those old stories. Rewrite that I don't have to work for somebody else. I don't have to work in a job where somebody else is telling me my schedule. I don't have to work somewhere where I get stressed out, because I remember that I need to put me first. And we are in a fortunate situation where my husband and we have a little bit of cushion right now. So we aren't forced to go work right now. I'm saying forced with air quotes. If go check my YouTube out so you can see me air quoting, watch me talking about this. But you recognize them, you rewrite those old stories. And then after you have written those old stories out, right? I need to have a job. I need to work hard to make money. I can't have a business on my own. I have to work for somebody else. Money's hard to come by. Whatever these old stories are, I can't move away from my family. Like if it's not about a job, maybe it's about a marriage. I can't survive on my own. I can't be a single mom. Like whatever you are in that metamorphosis from, maybe it's leaving your job to be an entrepreneur. So it's like, I need to have steady income. Like I need to get a paycheck every week. I need to have a pension. Those are old stories. You're going to write them out, and then you're going to cut the cord. You're going to release those stories. You can take them outside. You can have them in your house and have like a little like shell or a bowl that you can specifically do this in. You can, if you have a fire pit, and you can actually burn those pieces of paper. You can also rip them. This isn't like, I'm not telling you to go start a fire. Don't do it in the forest and have a forest fire. You can rip them up and you're releasing them out into the world. You can even say like, these stories no longer serve me. I am no longer connected to these stories. And you're getting rid of them so that you can bring something new into your story, into your life. And you're rewriting those stories. So let me give you the tips so far. Number one, you're going to listen to yourself and your intuition, what feels good for you. Number two, you're going to journal about them. You're going to write out everything, any dream, any idea, any job where you feel lit up, any location, maybe if you're talking about locations where you would want to live, you're moving, whatever that may look like for you, you're going to write it all out with no judgment. Step three, so far, those old stories are going to come up. You're going to take those old stories, you're going to notice them, you're going to write them out, and then you're going to release them. You're going to release them out into the universe. You're going to feel so good once you do that. Okay. All right. The fourth one is you're going to get curious. So now you've released all these old stories. You're going to figure out what's coming up for you. Those things that you wrote out, like what feels really good. Let's get curious. Get back to doing things that maybe you did when you were younger that are going to really help you release being stuck. They're going to help you feel good because when you change your energetic state, everything in your life changes. So even though you think, I'm going to go take a painting class, I'm going to go do pottery, even though it has nothing to do with work, when you're there and you're feeling creative and you're feeling lit up and there's no expectation to you doing this class, that's when the magic happens. That's when you start to feel creative and things will start to manifest and happen in your life. I'm actually feeling like, I don't know, I'm feeling like movement in my hands right now when I'm doing this. It's like you're taking things in, right? Into your vortex, into your life, into your awareness, into your energy that can shift everything else. Maybe a new idea will come up. Maybe you'll meet someone in that class. Maybe you start going on walks outside. Maybe you start grounding in the grass. Maybe you head to the beach. Like maybe you go and ask friends that are doing a specific job. You talk to other people and say, hey, what is this thing that you're doing? Tell me about that. Maybe you look stuff up on the internet. Just get curious. Okay. That's number 4. Number 5, this is if possible, give yourself space to explore. So you're getting curious, but if you have the luxury, let's just say, because it's a luxury that right now I don't have to go find, I'm doing air quotes again. If you're listening on the podcast, go on YouTube. I have the luxury of not having to go find work with that paycheck right now. Right. And so if you have time and space to explore, then do that. Explore what feels good. Maybe it's explore reading new books, explore talking to other people, different networking groups. Just explore this massive universe and what there actually is out there. And the last tip that I have for you that I have been doing since I have been in this metamorphosis, and I'm still in this metamorphosis, let's be real, is talk to others about it. Now, not talk to others about it, like to have other people tell you what to do, right? Because we're going to go back to number 1. We're going to listen to ourselves. We're going to listen to our intuition. No one else knows you, your situation, how you're feeling. Nobody else is you. Okay. But you're going to talk to other people because it helps to talk. And something I shared Tuesday, actually, I was at a cup of gratitude at a friend's house, and then Monday I had a mastermind, and I said, literally, I can say these things to other people. I can coach people on things when they're coming to me and feeling stuck or not, loving themselves. But sometimes we don't hear ourselves. And I said, I basically felt like, is it the monkeys that are, that have their ears covered? So I didn't hear myself. And then I had my mouth covered. I couldn't speak to myself. I had my eyes covered. I can't see myself. And that's what I felt like. But sometimes when you talk to other people in a safe space who will really listen to you, you start to hear yourself. And sometimes you can answer your own knowing if you are in a safe space to talk to somebody else. And when you say it, you know it. When you say it, you know it. So make sure if you're going to talk to other people about your transition, about your ideas, about your metamorphosis, make sure you're just weary that their stories, aren't rubbing off on you, that, everything that they tell you, you're not soaking it all in. And that's your answer is whatever this person tells me to do. But you're just going to listen and you're going to take it in and you're going to observe what felt good to you, what didn't feel good. Maybe you take one little nugget that they said, and then maybe you can go back and journal about it again. But I wanted to share this because I think, so many times we don't give ourselves permission to be in a transition, in a metamorphosis, in a shift. And I think we need to listen to ourselves more and know that there's nothing wrong with you if you want to shift, if you want to change, if you want to do something different. You just have to know that that's what's right for you. So I want to list the 5 or 6 tips again when you're going through some type of transition. And I really hope that you hear this and you feel this and you know that I'm coming from my heart, and where I am. And this is helping me as I'm figuring out who do I want to be when I grow up, as I'm figuring out what do I want to keep offering? What do I want to keep sharing? What do I want to keep supporting? How do I want this to feel for others? How do I want others to feel? How do I want people to feel supported by me? How do I want to be supported by others, by myself? And so the tips are listen to yourself and your intuition, do whatever feels right for you. The second tip was to journal, write it out, all your dreams, whatever that may be, dream world, dream life. Like, what would that look like? What would you be doing? Who would you be around? Where would you be living? Write it all out. No, nothing is crazy. No judgment of yourself. 3, when those old stories come up, because those old stories are going to come up, you want to listen to them. You want to notice that they're there. You want to write them out. You want to release them, whether that's cutting them, burning them, whatever you want to do. And then you want to rewrite those old stories. The 4th thing is you want to get curious. So get curious with what's feeling good. What feels good for you right now? What ideas do you want to try? What fun things do you want to do? The 5th thing, if you have time, then give yourself space to actually do this. And then the last thing is talk with others, but making sure that you are not taking in their stories, but you're taking a little bit, listening, taking a tip, and releasing the rest. So you're not having someone tell you what you should be doing, but you're just going to take one thing, maybe 2, that they say has worked for them, just like I hope you do with this podcast episode on me going through a transition, going through a metamorphosis. You're going to take something and figure out what sounds good to me, what sounds like that would work for me. If this is helpful for you, if you feel like, oh my gosh, this was really helpful because I am going through some kind of metamorphosis right now, I am going through some type of transition, please take this episode, share it with someone who you know is going through a transition themselves, whether that is work, whether that is with moving, whether that's with a job, whether that's with a marriage, like becoming a parent, whatever that is, share this with them. Put it on social media, tag me. I would love to know that something in this episode really spoke to your heart, because I do this because I want to help you. I do this because I want to help myself. Because again, when I speak it, it helps me, right? It helps me. And that is a way that I learn, by teaching others, by sharing what I'm learning with you. So thank you so much for coming back, for being such a loyal listener, even allowing me to have that space to take time off and do what's best for me. And I hope that that gives you permission to do that for yourself, because you know, and there is no point in us running ourselves ragged and feeling like we have to do all the things if we can give ourselves some grace and do what is needed now. So thank you so much for listening. I can't wait to come back next week with another episode, and have a wonderful day, Mama.